This is ABC15 Mornings.
We want to thank you for starting your Saturday morning off with us. We've got plenty to get to this morning. I'm Nohelani Graff.
And I'm Mark Thompson, social distancing from home. And hey, I'm looking forward to another nice weekend, at least a comfortable weekend, until we start to see some heat headed our way a little bit down the road, huh?
Yeah, definitely later this week. It is going to get warm for the first time this year, but that's why we really have to enjoy the weather this weekend. Nice and cool out there this morning. We've got some mid 50s out there in Goodyear. It's 56 right now, upper 50s in Glendale and Mesa, as well as Phoenix Metro. We've cooled down a little bit because of that sunrise that's up. Gorgeous view of Camelback this morning too. We're going to warm up pretty rapidly though this afternoon. By 8 o'clock, we're already back into the 60s, and then by 11, we're in the 70s, so well before lunchtime today, and climbing from there. I'll talk about just how warm we will get this afternoon, plus some breezes that are going to work their way back into our forecast. That's coming up in just a little bit.
All right, Nohe, thank you so much. 6:01 now, and the big question this morning is, when will Arizona reopen? We've all been hearing about this for the past couple of days and really wondering about it and when it's going to take place. But now we've actually got a very specific number coming from a national database from the University of Washington. Now take a look. It says that June 8th is when Arizona may be able to relax social distancing rules. That's based on case numbers and tracking and testing. But it does change by the day. And one headline out there, get this, based on the very same model, says that Arizona already hit its peak for cases back on April 5th. But those numbers, they don't factor in yesterday's sobering additions with more than 19 lives lost to COVID-19. It was the deadliest day in Arizona so far. The governor says that he's not going to guess when it comes to reopening the state.
The state's plan to reopen is still a work in progress. Governor Doug Ducey enlisting the director of tourism to lead the development of that plan. So construction and manufacturing jobs are expected to start up first. Other businesses like restaurants are likely going to have to wait a little bit. Some of Arizona's representatives in Washington, though, say that no matter what happens, the process has to be gradual.
It's going to take a little while actually for our economy to get back up and running, because let's think about it. I mean, are people going to just rush out to restaurants? I doubt it. They're still going to be worried. They're still going to be hesitant to, sit next to somebody.
Now, the task force is charged with deciding how Arizona is going to get back to business, and it's expected to complete its work by the end of next week.
Meanwhile, those in the medical field say that testing plays a huge part in reopening the state. An infectious disease expert says that once people are back to living their normal lives, contact tracing will be key to prevent small clusters from popping up and becoming another outbreak.
If somebody gets diagnosed with a sexually transmitted disease, what do they ask you? They say, well, they want you to identify your sexual partners. And then what they do is they'll contact those folks. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, and then call centers would ideally reach out immediately and interview people who did test positive for COVID-19, asking who they've been in contact with, where they've been, and so on down the chain. Now, he believes that it will take dozens, if not hundreds of volunteers to make this happen. Well, the tributes came pouring in overnight. Some sad news to report this morning for former governor of Arizona, Jane Hull. Now, the couple, she and her husband, Dr. Terry Hull, they spent decades serving our state. And then last night we heard that they died just hours apart from natural causes. Now, Senate President Karen Fann, she sent us a statement that reads in part, in a state that has led the way with so many strong female leaders, she stood out as the first female Speaker of the House and the first woman elected governor. Now, Hull was also the first woman to be Secretary of State who stepped up to lead as the governor before her resigned amid controversy.
In fact, the governor's office was really thrust upon her. And I'm not sure she would have ever run for governor, just because it was not in her nature to be a ladder climber or a seeker of higher office. She just was a steady-handed, good person who showed up on her own volition at the legislature back in the early 1980s and said, "I'd like to serve."
And the governor ordering flags at half-staff to honor the trailblazer.
Let's talk about that most accurate forecast for you now. And we've got a nice cool start to the morning here. We're in the 50s and we're going to climb pretty rapidly today. We'll be in the 70s by 11 this morning. If you're taking part in Pat's Run today and doing it virtually, this morning might be a really nice time to get out and run. We're in the upper 50s. If you wait until sunset, we'll be warmer in the upper 70s. But you'll also notice some breezes are going to keep us pretty comfortable throughout the afternoon. Right now, 8 miles an hour in the Phoenix metro area, 8-mile-an-hour winds up in Flagstaff, 9-mile-an-hour winds in Gila Bend. I'll talk about how much stronger they'll get statewide today coming up in that full forecast.
All right, no, hey, thank you. Now to some other local headlines making news this morning. A man is recovering after his nephew allegedly shot him. Take a look at the scene here. According to Mesa Police, it happened last night near Center Street and McKellips Road. Officials tell us that the suspect was intoxicated when that shooting happened, but they still don't know what led up to the shooting and no word on the condition of that uncle this morning. Now to Phoenix, where two people, they were hurt after a mobile home fire. It happened last night near Van Buren and 33rd Avenue. Officials say that 2 mobile homes caught fire and 2 people were able to get out. One of them was taken to the hospital with some burn injuries. The other was treated by crews on the scene. No word yet on a cause.
Let's talk about some money issues here. Arizona residents are not going to see a tuition hike at the state's 3 public universities, at least for now. The presidents of ASU, U of A, and NAU say that the decision is delayed because COVID-19 has caused so much uncertainty. While schools are not raising in-state tuition, they are proposing increases for non-resident and online students, and those amounts vary by university. You do have a chance to comment at a virtual meeting that's happening on April 27th before the Board of Regents vote on May 7th. Help is also on the way for hundreds of thousands of homeowners who cannot afford their mortgage payments right now. You've probably heard the term forbearance. It's designed to keep people in their homes, but for some it could end up causing even bigger headaches and heartache down the road. ABC 15's Nick Soletti explains for us.
Getting help with your mortgage just got a little easier thanks to the CARES Act.
You don't have to show proof of hardship right now, so you can call up XYZ Bank and say, you know what, I just lost my job, I really need some assistance, and then basically they'll put your mortgage payments on hold.
Jeremy Schachter is with Fairway Mortgage in Phoenix and says forbearance or temporarily delaying payments can keep more people from losing their homes.
Banks don't want your homes. You know, banks want your mortgages to be paid off.
That relief can vary, but Jeremy says a typical forbearance period lasts for 90 days and can be extended for up to a year. But the big takeaway? Forbearance is not forgiveness, meaning that money you owe will not be erased.
The challenge is, how do you pay that back? Is it going to be tacked onto your mortgage at the end? Is it going to be a balloon payment where you miss 3 mortgage payments of $1,000? After the 3rd month, you owe $3,000 plus interest? So there's really different banks are handling it in different ways.
And Jeremy warns forbearance is meant for people who really need it, not for people trying to game the system.
I have heard many people who are trying to basically use this act as a savings account. Oh, you know what? After 3 months, I'll pay it back. Maybe I'll put some money in the stock market. Maybe I'll save it up for another house to buy. That's not what the purpose of this CARES Act is.
So to start this process, you need to communicate with your bank. And right now, the banks are really busy trying to help people who want to take advantage of this. So Jeremy says try to do as much online as you can. And if you do have to call your bank or lender, you're just going to have to be prepared to wait it out on the phone.
All right, well, coming up, taking that dog out for a walk while social distancing, it's a great quarantine activity, but those who stop to say hi to your pet, they might be putting you at risk.
Also, if you're looking for a different way to get some cheer or cheers in this weekend, a local brewery is helping you from the comfort of your own home. We'll let you know what they're doing still to come. But first, a live view from our Valley Cam this morning. Few high, thin clouds, but just an absolutely gorgeous view to start the day. I've got the rest of that most accurate forecast for you in just 2 minutes.
(6:12) now on your Saturday morning. Well, a lot of us have questions about the coronavirus and our risk to exposure. Say, for example, you're out walking your dog and someone comes up to pet it. What is your risk? Well, our friends at Newsy, they asked the experts and they say that the risk is medium.
Right now, social distancing is important, so hopefully if they were coming up to pet your dog, they wouldn't be real close to you. But a way to reduce your risk for sure would be to maintain that distance of at least 6 feet.
If that dog owner or the dog lover and you are within that 6 feet proximity, they do pose the same risk, because most likely when they're stopping to pet the dog, they're also talking to you, getting your permission. Hopefully, both of you are wearing your paper-based mask or cloth mask, as you should be right now outdoors.
Interesting. And also I had questions about if you kind of touch the dog collar, can that transfer? So I think everybody just needs to use the common sense rule right now, right? All right, let's talk about that most accurate forecast. A cool start to the morning here. We've got temperatures in the 50s across the valley, but we're down to 56 in Tempe, 52 in Chandler, 53 in Gilbert. It's 52 in Levine right now, as well as up in Cave Creek. So we do have some cooler spots out there, but we've got a gorgeous view. Few high thin clouds this morning. Live look at Camelback Mountain. And our planner looks like this for today. We're going to warm up pretty quickly. So by 8 o'clock this morning, we're already back into the low 60s. We'll stay there through about 11 o'clock. And then by noon, we're certainly well into the 70s, the 80s. Make their appearance right around 3 o'clock this afternoon. So it will be warm, but it's going to be comfortable, certainly as we look compared to the rest of that 7-day forecast. Here's a look at those highs city by city. 80s in Gilbert, Mesa, Tempe, Levine and Goodyear, upper 70s in places like Glendale, Peoria, Superior, and also Fountain Hills and Queen Creek warming to the upper 70s for today. Temperatures across the state right now, cooler start to the morning. It's 49 in Casa Grande right now. We've got 50s and 60s along our western border. Up in Flagstaff, we're just above freezing at this hour, and the Grand Canyon has dropped below freezing this morning. 28 degrees there, sitting right at the freezing mark in Heber as well. The warm up will be comfortable in the high country, but you still have a chance for rain and snow, so it'll stay cooler up there. A high of 61 in Show Low and Window Rock, 53 in Flagstaff today. We've got 60s in the Verde Valley area, but warmer temperatures along our western border in the 80s from Bullhead City down to Yuma and across central and southern Arizona as well. Also, the breezes are going to kick up this afternoon along our eastern border. Southeastern Arizona will see some winds as well. We're talking about 10 to 15 miles an hour up in the high country, but we could see gusts around 20 miles an hour. Here in the valley, our breezes will kick up right around 3 o'clock this afternoon and be around 10 miles an hour through about 8 o'clock tonight. Then they'll die down overnight and we'll see breezy conditions again tomorrow. Also, a low pressure system is bringing a disturbance to the high country, so we've got rain and snow chances in areas like Sedona and Flagstaff moving in after 2 o'clock today, and through 5 o'clock is when we're most likely to see those scattered, isolated showers in the high country. But here in the valley, we're staying dry for the next several days. So if you want to go get that car wash, go ahead and do it. Roll the windows down while you drive back home from the car wash and enjoy at least a little bit of the outdoors. Also, if you can get outside and safely run or go for a bike ride, today and tomorrow are the days to do it, because we'll be in the 80s. Through Monday, we start to warm up into the upper 80s Monday, and then a slight cool down before a big warm up comes. The first 90s of the year will be here by Wednesday, and that's not even the warmest day of the week. So we're going to talk about that warm up and the high pressure system that's raising those temperatures later this week, coming up in that 7-day in just a little bit, Mark.
All right. No, hey, thank you so much. And as we all are adjusting and doing our part to social distance from home, we're seeing meetings and classes and even home workouts being hosted online. Well, the Craft Brewing Guild, they're now getting involved in this as well, and they're holding a virtual beer festival to kind of help people out and get people in a better mood, of course. And our own John Genovese, he's got more on how you can raise a glass from home while also lending a helping hand.
You can pick your own chair, your easy chair. You can create your own wristband. You can drink from your own festival cup.
Celebrating a love for yeast, barley, and hops from the comfort of your living room. Rob Fulmer leads the Arizona Craft Brewers Guild, and given these uncertain times, he says it's a crucial time for a cheers.
You might see some reports that beer in general is up 20%, but that is not any of our guys because they're reliant on people coming into their locations. And so a lot of people's business is down. I mean, they're doing maybe between 5 and 25% of what they used to be able to do in terms of sales.
On Saturday afternoon, the Guild is hosting a virtual beer festival. A $5 ticket gets you access to the online event. You're encouraged to pick up a few cans or bottles from your favorite local brewery and then tune in. And all the money raised from those tickets will go to workers across the state.
Our breweries are going to do some Zoom casts within Facebook. So, we're going to have a mainstream live feed that will have different guests.
Fulmer says they're hoping for around 1,000 people to take part. They're even selling t-shirts and a VIP package. But above even the beverage itself, he says the most important part is bringing people together, even if only through a computer screen.
For a lot of people, it's always been about beer, but what they don't realize until a time like this, it's really about hospitality. And there are so many of us that want to take care of customers and guests and interact with them. It has always been, we talk about beer culture, but it is the cultural part of it that is the strongest part of it.
John Genovese, ABC15, Arizona.
And John tells us today's virtual event goes from 2 to 6 p.m. Nohe?
So, Mark, let's talk about when it comes to covering your face. Something is better than nothing, right? That's why a lot of people have been making their own masks. And researchers have now been working to determine the best material to use if you're going to make one at home.
We've tried everything from coffee filters to vacuum bags, pillowcases, sheets, different scarf material.
The best materials were the fuzzy fabrics, anything that had a very high amount of surface area.
So that means something like a sweatshirt or a towel. Another good option, and even better than a surgical mask even, would be a piece of an air filter from your air conditioning, and then you sandwich that between cloth. That way you get the most filtration without breathing in any of the fibers. As for what not to use, T-shirts and handkerchiefs were the least effective. They blocked out less than 15% of particles. But again, maybe you could improve your chances a little bit if you put a coffee filter in between and double up, so you still have that filter in there. A change in routine can cause some children to move backwards developmentally. Coming up, how to avoid baby behavior. While many families are starting to adjust to this new world of working from home and homeschooling, it is still a drastic change for kids, and it can sometimes have a negative impact on them. So this morning we're talking to Dr. Allison Steyer from Southwest Human Development about regression and how to help your kids through it. Dr. Steyer, thank you so much for joining us this morning. So first, let's talk a little bit about what is regression and why does it happen?
Well, regression happens to all of us, actually. It's a sign we're under a lot of stress and we take a step back from our usual way, our higher way of functioning. Kids do this with some frequency in childhood, and it's a sign to us that they're under too much pressure or they're feeling too much stress.
So what are some signs to look for so that might indicate that your child is regressing in some way? What can happen?
So it's a slide back in development. So you would be seeing behavior that you sort of thought, well, we already did this. We already got through this. Baby talk in a much older child, a 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old, wetting the bed in children who had mastered toileting, more clinginess in kids who were more confident and ventured out more. So a slip back like that.
So what can we do to combat that? Because we are in this new way of working where parents are home with their kids more. It can be a little confusing. So how do we balance and get them back on track?
Well, I think that the first thing you do is try to look around the environment and is there anything that could be contributing to the kids' stress? The idea is we're in the mode detective now. What is really stressful for this child? So if there's a lot of adult conversation that could be worrisome, monitor adult conversation. If the news is on all day and people, it tends to elevate people's stress level. Kids are very tuned in to the stress of the adults around them. And also, what is the child missing? So a lot of kids aren't going to school now, but they had been, and they liked going to school. They miss their teachers, they miss their buddies. If that's the case, then maybe be a little more aware of connecting them online with their teachers and their school friends. But we're in the mode of kind of trying to figure out what is it that is really putting this kid over the top so that he or she feels they have to revert to younger behavior.
What I'm also hearing from parents is that they're feeling so guilty about this happening and they're feeling like, what did I do wrong? So how can we help parents also get through this, because they're taking on a lot of roles that they didn't have to in the past either?
That's right. And that's part of the extraordinary times that we're living in, and the staying reality based. We can't do it all. Everybody's doing the best that they can, including kids. So most of us were not trained preschool teachers. And now we're taking on that role, which is very, very difficult work. Trying to be it all. So lowering expectations, I think, for children, which will reduce their stress, and for ourselves. There is an opportunity here in this crisis to develop kids' resilience. Resilience means that you have struggled well with a difficult circumstance. So for kids to come through this, knowing that they had adult support and that they got through a hard time will actually serve them very well in their lives.
And if you need that extra support, then that's what Southwest Human Development is for. So how can we reach you guys and get the help that families might need right now?
Well, we're very lucky in Arizona to have an 800 number that parents of young children can call. It's the Birth 5 helpline. That number is 1-877-705-KIDS. And it's Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Now is one of those times where there is absolutely no shame in reaching out for extra help. We are all in this one together. Dr. Steyer, thank you so much for your time, for your advice. I know that a lot of parents can definitely use it, so I appreciate you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.